you can develop the skills to be in the moment.
But that's what makes you you.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I'm talking to everyone. I don't know. Welcome to the Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast. I am your host, Shawn D. Nelson, maybe better known as the Love Sack Guy. I'm so excited about today. All right. We have an amazing topic. Every week we go deep on one topic, one Shawnism with a superstar. In hopes that maybe we can share something to help you do it bigger, better, faster than we ever did, saving a chunk of your own 25-year journey. Today, we have a musician, songwriter, producer, Mr. Goldfinger, right? Sits in with the Tonight Show band, with I think every TV band. I mean, he's all over the place. On the music scene in New York, is the music scene in New York. We've got Mr. Goldfinger, Mr. Ray Angry on the Let Me Save You 25 Years pod. What's up?
Hey, Shawn. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
This is going to be cool.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm like giddy excited is because, you might not know this about me. Ray certainly didn't know this about me. But I'm a musician. I say that. I'm like embarrassed to say it out loud. I'm a hack musician. I played in bars and nightclubs for like 15, 20 years. Keyboardist as well.
Wow.
But really like lead singer guy.
Okay.
But I mean, that's my instrument.
That's amazing.
And so we'll get into the music. We'll get into all this stuff. But our topic, I wanted to know. So our topic today, Envision with precision, right? No prompt, no prep. When you heard this, what was the first thing that came to mind for you?
The first thing that came to mind was the day that I graduated from college. And, whenever you graduate from school, you put that much time into something, there's this gap between the work that you put in to do what you want to do, and then finding a job.
Oh yeah, that.
And like,
what did you graduate in?
I got my master's degree in piano performance at Howard University.
Oh wow!
So I studied with Jerry Allen and Dr. Raymond Jackson. So I had an amazing classical pianist.
That's amazing.
As a teacher, and amazing jazz musicians, jazz pianists who were teachers. And Grady Tate, who was an amazing drummer and vocalist, played with Quincy Jones, played with Sarah Vaughan, played with everybody. But these were my teachers.
Wow.
And coming out of school, I knew what I wanted to do, but it was like, well, how do I do that?
Right.
And so I just envisioned myself being in New York, playing at Carnegie Hall, playing at all these places. I remember the day I wrote down, I said, I want to go to New York and I want to do this. I wrote everything down. And then one day, when I was in DC, I was music director at a church. So, as a musician, you're like going through school, playing at church is a great way to have some money. So I was the only cat in school that had money, And so I was playing at church every week. And then one Sunday I was like, man, I don't want this to be the rest of my life where I'm just playing at church, although it's a great foundation. And I literally just left. I told my mom, hey, I want to go to New York. And I went to New York. And when I read Envision with Precision, that's the first thing I thought of, because having moved to New York, I played at Carnegie Hall like 3 or 4 times.
Cool.
And then I'm on the Tonight Show and I'm playing with the Roots. And a lot of these things, that happened to me, I just go back to the time when I was in college praying and envisioning myself playing around the world.
Yeah.
And so now I just got back from Dubai, and I was in Saudi Arabia. I never imagined myself being in Saudi Arabia, and I had a great time.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought about.
I love that. Okay. There are half a dozen things we got to double click on just in what you said. I'll share. I got to close the markets on NASDAQ yesterday, push the button.
Wow.
Because Lovesac went public 6 years back and we had an investor day. My point is I saw that as well.
Yeah.
And listen, right out of the gate, I want to get into how you came to that knowledge or that ability or that instinct, but envisioning your outcomes in as much precision as you can, like not just, I want to play the piano on big stages, but like in Carnegie Hall, I'm guessing you might have even imagined some of the stuff you might be playing, what it might kind of look like. The more precise that we can imagine our outcomes, the more likely they will happen.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, you can call it The Secret, or you can call it manifesting, you call it whatever you want. But everything in this universe, I believe, was created through word, through imagination, before it was ever created. And sometimes, and this is why I love that you're a jazz musician as well, because having experienced that flow state, where you're living, the fun thing about jazz. So I ride motorcycles as well. I ride dirt bikes.
Wow.
I love dirt bikes. And I was thinking about this yesterday, unrelated to our conversation. I think part of the reason I love riding dirt bikes, because it's fast and it's violent, right? Like the terrain changes immediately. You're coming over like you got to deal with whatever's in front of you.
You got to be present.
Split second. You can't not be present.
Yeah.
You'll die.
Yeah.
And what's happening is it's just like jazz. Like, when it's moving so fast and somehow, right, your mind is capable of making a million decisions and even exploring different outcomes. In a split second. In a split second.
Yeah.
And interact with others. And when you feel that flow state, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that in a music situation. I feel in live music specifically. I feel that on the dirt bike, as crazy as that sounds.
It makes sense though.
And I get to feel it in business as well, because business is fast and violent. And so all of these things, so let's go back to your story. Okay. So, and this is why I love this topic for you, because it's so easy, like, to talk to some rich person and be like, I imagine myself with a yacht and like a hot wife or something. It's like, let's, I love, because we're all entrepreneurs. We're all building something. And I'm speaking to everyone right now.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Like, you may think, I just work at a company. No.
Yeah.
You're managing your own life. Okay. And you may have your income from some salary job, whatever, but you are the CEO of your life. You are manifesting a life, whether you are intentional about it or not.
Yeah.
So let's take you back to Howard University. You're graduated, whatever. Where did you get the instinct to even imagine your future like that? Was that something someone told you? And I want to take it further. You also said you wrote it down. Like, just take me back to that time and how you did that.
I think to unpack that, I think there's so many variables, and I think the main one, I want to use the word mentor. I think to envision something, you have to see something first, And I think the people that I was coming in contact with, like Wynton Marsalis, people who had, really been game changers in their own right, and those, and then also I love history, and just studying the people that I admire made me want to create my own version of what I saw. And then also music is, to me, is a spiritual practice. And I feel like that sort of, the embodiment of just me being inspired by my mentors made me want to, okay, here's how I want to change the music. I see my peers who are like struggling to like have an identity. So I wanted to have my own identity. And I guess I've always been weird in that way. I've always like sort of like known what I wanted to do. And people are like, well, what is that? What are you doing? And sometimes people don't get it.
Yeah.
When you see something, and like, even when I started producing Mondays, people were like, well, what is it?
Yeah.
But for me, I get inspiration from those that came before me.
Okay.
And I hope I'm answering your question, but that's really how I.
Yeah. So it sounds like you just intuited your way to that place where you either felt compelled or just felt it right to imagine, your identity, your future. It sounds like you had some precision with it. Like you said, you actually kind of imagined playing at Carnegie Hall. I'm curious, what did you, in those imaginations at the time, what did you play at Carnegie Hall? Was it classical? Was it jazz? Was it something else? How do you think you saw yourself?
It was definitely classical, but the thing about genre, and I have to say this, I feel like when I was in college, my professor would ask me, so, what do you want to do? And I would say, I want to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like, I love people. I love all sorts of people. And for me, I sort of see the connection between everything. I can't explain it, but I see the connection between even like early classical music, not to be a nerd, but early classical music was based in improvisation. It's only when we started writing music down is when it became classical.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, in the Greek culture, they would have themes and they would improvise on these themes. And jazz is the same way. So I see music as one organism. And so, when I was envisioning myself at Carnegie Hall, it's sort of like an embodiment of just music, of just me playing freely in Carnegie Hall. That's what I imagine. So
no, it doesn't matter. My point is, you saw what you saw.
Yeah.
You, of course, fast forward, not even, that far out, you're playing in Carnegie. You played in Carnegie Hall many times.
Yeah.
In different formats.
Yeah, exactly.
You've played on many stages in different formats. Yeah. But it was that initial seed that got you there, I believe. And so do you continue now? You talked about this kind of early vision you had. Do you continue to utilize envisioning?
Oh my God. Yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like sitting here and talking with you is another thing that I've been thinking about in terms of like me want. For example, like you're an amazing visionary.
I don't know about that. I make big bean bags, but
but seriously, you've taken an idea and you've expanded it in a way that it's helping so many people.
Thanks.
And your mission. And so for me, that's what I'm doing. And that's what I want to do with the music that I make and the people I come in contact with. I wanted to always be able to be that type of person, the type of visionary that can also bring people along with me.
I love that.
You know what I mean? And so this is...
And I get to do that both in this format. And that's why I've come to love what I like. Okay, so just yesterday I'm sitting in a room full of public investors. This is Wall Street investors.
Amazing.
Well, no, it's like the most soulless, these guys just want money. And I'm just a vehicle to either get it or not, right? Yeah. Like, does this company have the goods to like invest, whatever. Yeah. So I've got to convince them of that. But really, the reason that 26 years into this thing that I started in college as a joke, as a side hustle, because, I actually paid some of my bills playing music.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I was playing sometimes nightly in clubs in Salt Lake City. That's where I made money. Lovesac took all my money.
That's
I had
crazy.
to like buy more fabric, fix the van. It was like, this was like this thing that, anyway, fast forward today. Why am I so stoked about it? Because I have recognized my own purpose along the way. I've come to realize that I'm happiest when I get to create environments that inspire and uplift people. And in a company format, I get to do that in so many ways, whether it's standing on the stage with these investors.
Yeah.
But what's funny? I finished my little bit. I went to hand it off to my business partner to speak. And we do this thing at Lovesac sometimes at our big events called the power pose, where we stand up, we put our arms above our head. And like, if you do that for 2 minutes, it changes your physiology.
Yeah.
And I had this instinct like jazz in the moment, because I stood up and they looked all stale. I'd been talking for like an hour already about business and numbers. So I'm like, stand up. Mary needs some energy before she gets on stage. And then, imagine this. These are all Wall Street guys. They all make tons of money. They're all wearing their suits and whatever. And I'm up here in jeans. I put your arms up, and they do it. And they'll just do what I say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you
And
changed their life.
I did both in that little moment and also, of course, I hope in this presentation that we left. And so we continue to build Lovesac utilizing their money. They're our investors. And we get to then have our manager fest, which, by the way, you have to come to our next manager fest.
I would love that.
We throw the best parties and we have the coolest musicians. We had Montel Jordan the first year and the whole 90s crew. We had this last year we had Flo Rida come out, and it was just a lot of fun. Yeah. But and then a bunch of friends that we've garnered along the way. So anyway, I get to create those environments, and when you live inside of your purpose, if you can find it, along your journey, you're happy. You're vibing. You're in flow state more of the time than if you're just, trying to live according to someone else's vision for you, which a lot of people do because they slip into, they don't know what they want. So they slip into what I should want.
Or what's safe.
Yeah. And so you have to take that pause. So let me pull it back. Okay. So we've envisioned a future, what about that jump off point where you ditched your safety net and you just left? You had this safe gig with the church. Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
You're making money.
Yeah.
A lot of your friends may not even be making money yet. You're making good money doing that. Yeah. Decent money, whatever. Mm-hmm. You're playing the piano.
Yeah.
So you're there, but you knew in your heart you weren't there.
Yeah.
And you left.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't do that. How did you have the stones to do that?
Well, I literally was sitting in church, and when I was playing at church, man, I was playing as if I was in Carnegie Hall, like if I was on a big stage, big sounds, and I felt like I had this feeling. I was like, I gotta go, and literally, like I'm not even joking. Literally, after church was over, I rented during this time I used to rent SUVs, and I rented an SUV and I packed it full of as many things as I could. And I drove from Washington, D.C. to New Jersey and packed myself and stayed with my aunt because I was as close to New York as I could get.
Yeah.
And I was like 20 minutes from New York. And I did that for a month.
Really?
I would play at church, boom. I don't think I told anybody that I was doing this either, and this was August of 2021. So follow me, 2021. September, I was officially in New York. September 11th happened right after I moved to New York.
Oh my gosh.
And not to freak you out, the crazy thing is.
So this is 2001.
2001, yeah. What did I say?
2021.
21. I'm sorry. My brain.
No, I want to make sure
it's 2001. Sorry. Yeah.
Yep, I'm with you.
And I during this time I'm like into manifesting. I'm going to Barnes and Noble. Like I would go there and like buy self-help books because I just moved to New York.
Yeah.
And on this particular day, I used to go to this club called Smalls, this famous jazz club, and they would stay open till like 8 in the morning. Cats would just play all night. So I was there, and because I would have to leave New York, go to the World Trade, take the PATH train, and then go to Jersey. So this particular morning, I go to the PATH train, I go to the World Trade Center, I get off because Barnes & Noble is there, and there's a Krispy Kreme, so I'm like, I'm going to buy donuts, I'm going to buy a book, I'm going to, I'm feeling energized. And it was a beautiful day. And something told me, go home right now. And so I was like, man, all right, okay. And so I got on the train and I went home. As soon as I got to my cousin's apartment, I walk in the door, I lay down on my bed. As soon as I lay down, my cousin says, hey man, they just blew up the World Trade Center. I was there.
Wow.
At the World Trade Center. And so so you talk about purpose, like, I'm just like, man, I'm just flowing and I'm just following.
You had just arrived in New York City.
I just arrived in New York City. I made that first leap, into the unknown. And that thing happened, and it was even though it was a tragedy, but it just ended up being something that that taught me to listen to your inner voice.
Yeah.
And so that's what I always do.
Yeah. Listen, everybody has one. This is, I could get spiritual about it. I'll just leave it at that. And it's not imaginary. It's not superstitious.
No.
It's absolutely real. Everybody has both an inner voice. You could call it intuition, you can call it whatever you want. And everybody has the ability to manifest. And you can call that whatever you want. Listen, for those listening, if you want what I think is the root of all self-help books, get this book. I don't know if you ever came across this book. I think it's the earliest one. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. It's written by Maxwell Maltz. It's what basically like Tony Robbins, neuro-linguistic programming, every other kind of like self-help book, The Secret, all these things build actually on, and I'll tell you the quick story because it's such an impactful book. And I love going to the root. You know what I mean? Because you can get the later stuff. It's kind of like music.
Yeah.
Like I love that you're classically trained. My wife, by the way, is a classically trained pianist. She went through the whole program.
Wow.
I did the first semester.
Wow.
Because I thought I could hang.
Yeah.
But the scales alone, like I was just like, okay, I'm tapping out. I'll just go back to playing bars. I did it. But this book is like that. It's like the classical music, in my opinion, of this. And what's cool is it's not even written by a psychologist or anything. It's written by a plastic surgeon.
Wow.
And at the root of this whole movement, he had done so many plastic surgeries that he was amazed because he would show these women in particular, a picture of their before, and then he'd have them looking in the mirror after and like, look at the change. And they'd be like, I don't see it. And I mean, it's like, I mean, it's, he cut part of their nose off. And so they'd be like, we have to do it again. We have to go deeper. And he's showing them, I mean, he's like, am I looking at the same photos? He's showing them, and he'd do it again. These women would come back from multiple surgeries because they could not, because their self-image that they had created in their mind was, I have a big nose.
Wow.
Or my eyebrows are too low.
Yeah.
And once they had established that self-image, even looking at photographs side by side, they were unable to recognize the change.
Wow.
And so he saw this so many times as a plastic surgeon.
Wow.
He had to then spend the rest of his life trying to figure out how this could be possible.
That's
and
crazy.
Essentially he wrote the book on self-image. And he was the one that first really made it clear that when you're first creating a self-image, as you have done, and as you did early on, which is why when you show up here, listen, let's get crass about it. Just like I do, you show up a certain way, wearing things. You're thoughtful about how you show up. I believe. I don't know that, but I am. And it's not that I'm trying to, it's not even that I'm trying to like dress a certain way. It's like the way that we show up in life is a reflection of this self-image. And Maxwell Maltz makes the case that it's not enough to just see yourself, let's say, shooting a basket. You need to see yourself standing at the line.
Mm-hmm.
You need to see the ball releasing from your hand the way you want it to with the right spin on it. You need to see it traveling through the air at the right arc. You need to see it entering the hoop, the sound of it rubbing on the net and exiting all the way down to the floor. And now do that a dozen times. Do that 1,000 times. And listen, I think any high-level athlete, musician, business person has some version of this that they've either intuited their way to or they've read about and applied in their life. And it sounds like you did both.
Yeah. I continue to do that. I think, I mean, as a creative, I just think it's important to sort of check in with yourself and sort of gauge where you are in terms of, visualizing things, for example, I guess what I'm trying to say is you never stop doing it.
Yeah.
Especially, it's an ongoing process.
Especially if you somehow, as people do, naturally have this ability or proclivity. And because I think that some people are more intuitive than others. Some people are more willing or even capable of envisioning and then manifesting in real life than others. But I also believe it can be developed,
Hmm.
and that we're all on the
I believe
continuum.
that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you? So let's. So how do you give me an example of how you continue to do this, like in your life now? As like you've become a professional, you've achieved a lot of the things that you initially envisioned, but now how does it keep going for you? Yeah.
Easy. So, well, how can I say this in a concise way? So, I would say it like this. I had a vision of me traveling around the world, and I had a vision of me working with the best people in the world. That was the initial vision. So that happens. Then COVID hits.
Hold on, let me interrupt. That initial vision of
Mhm.
traveling around the world, playing with the best people,
Yeah.
was it, I had this idea, it passed through my mind, or did you spend time, deeply thinking about it, repeatedly thinking about it? I'm curious about that a little bit.
Yeah, because I was a freshman in college, and I was, studying classical music and just practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. And just the idea of playing all of this really difficult music and seeing myself playing around the world, but then also being able to perform with musicians. Like I was, you know, really into Wynton Marsalis and his band, when they would play at the Blue Note,
Yeah.
Blues Alley in DC. So I was around incredible musicians. And so wanting to be a part of that.
So you dwelt on these things.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a passing idea.
No.
Like,
No.
oh, it'd be cool if I could send it.
No.
You spent a lot of time. Okay, so come back. So now you were there.
Yeah, because I would spend time with Wynton, and I would spend time with Marcus Roberts and Kenny. Okay, so Kenny Kirkland, he is like that's my guy. He's
Okay.
one of he's an unsung hero, just an incredible musician. Could play classical, could play jazz, he could play anything. And I wanted to be like this guy, really admired him. And so I had this initial vision of being the greatest sideman ever, And
What's the sideman?
Sideman, playing in a band.
I just want to make for listeners.
Playing in a band, accompanying an artist. That's for any musician who's practicing. That's what you want to do. You want to play with Jay-Z. You want to play with Rihanna. You want to play in these bands, and you want to play at the Super Bowl and experience this, this joy of playing and having so many people watch you when you're playing. So COVID hits, and then my whole dream just dissipates, is gone.
You have nowhere to play.
Nowhere to play. Now I have
no one to play with.
Yeah. No, and I had to reinvent myself.
Huh.
And so when I mentioned the word mentors earlier, here's where the connection is. So I'm working with the Roots, and their tour manager comes to me and says, "Hey man, my brother has an orchestra. They're looking for composers." I didn't see myself. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm a creative. I didn't see myself as a composer. And he was like, "Yeah, I think you can do it." I was like, "Really?" Anyway, so during COVID, I'm spending my time writing and learning how to write for orchestras. So I meet his brother, and he commissions me to write my first orchestra.
No way.
And the idea came to me. I'm looking in all these books that I have, and the idea came to me to write a piece called Black Athena Power. And so I write this piece, and I meet so many incredible people that help me along the way to understanding, how to, compose for an orchestra. And the performance happens, and it's sold out. And it's an incredible experience. That leads me to doing more film scoring. And then I'm working with Amy Schumer, and I'm scoring her films. And then I'm releasing my own albums.
Wow.
Rangry 1 and Rangry 3, and, I meet JMI Recordings, and they're like, "Hey man, you should do a record." So the vision expanded as a result of me meeting people who said, "Hey man, I think you can do this. Hey man, I think you can do that." Whereas I might have had a thought, but didn't pursue it. And so now now I'm sort of being forced to dream bigger and not sort of minimize, oh, well, I just want to play behind. I just want to be a sideman,
Yeah.
but be something,
Well, there's so many things in there because number one, you experienced an interruption, like a cataclysmic interruption for a musician that plays live a lot and all this stuff. Like COVID, look, COVID helped. We didn't know at the time, but COVID helped our business.
Mhm.
Everyone's sitting at home on their couch and it sucks.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to blow $5,000 on a brand new couch, right?
Yeah.
So some businesses benefit, some, but some are out.
Yeah.
Yours dried up and you hit this wall and could have, I don't know, gone anyway. But I think this is a great takeaway. We have to embrace the interruptions, the disruptions, the path, the twists in our path.
Yeah.
Because they're not necessarily bad.
Exactly.
And we're often too quick to judge, like, oh, no, just when things were getting good, this happens.
Yeah.
It's like, roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is why I love jazz music. Like, again, I'm a hack musician, but you have no choice.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to literally like train wreck.
Yeah.
You roll with everything.
Exactly.
Even the mistakes. And then the mistakes end up being the stuff that makes the track or the experience amazing.
Yeah.
And that's life. And that will always be life. And if you think it's ever anything different, you're wrong. And then what you did, if I may, is you took that interruption of COVID, you went inside, you did some version of envisioning.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you rolled with it. You used some of the outside feedback you were getting from others, and you expanded your self-image. And that was at the root of Maxwell Maltz's book.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's one reason, for instance, let me go here. If your kids are being a brat, you can't call them a brat.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, because it programs them.
That's their self-image now. And how will they behave thereafter? You have to exercise so much self-control. Yeah. In fact, you have to go the other direction. You're such a nice kid. Nice kids might not do that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But like the last thing you can do is call them a brat. Yeah. And the last thing you should do for yourself is call yourself stupid, call yourself a failure, call yourself like, I'm so bad. And even if you think it, don't just kick it out. I am the best sight man. Yeah. I mean, that's what you said, right? Yeah. Like you want to be the best sight man. So that's what you are. Yeah. Be what you will be, not what you are. That's another little Shawnism. Yeah. And even if you kind of think it's not true, you still say it. Yeah. And you make yourself believe it. Yeah. And what's wild is it's true. Yeah. I mean, here you sit as one of the sought after sight men, I guess, in Manhattan, playing with everybody. So there you go. Yeah. You did it.
Yeah. But man, it's so funny. I'll say this. It's so funny how a setback can be a setup for something amazing.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
These
things. See, I didn't know I was a writer because as a result of COVID, man, it just forced me, it just forced me to really go inside and just really find my voice and also let my voice be heard. That's what kind of basically what's happening.
Well, not even just a writer, but like for those listening, who aren't as close to music, you writing an orchestra. Because look, I was trained classically a little bit. I went through a bunch of jazz, ended up playing live for years. I'm a hack. I'm not like you, but I have a taste of it. You writing an orchestra would be a lot like me, the love sack guy, starting a finance firm, starting an investment firm on Wall Street. Like I could figure it out, but like there's a whole life that I didn't live before that. Wow. Coming up through school the right way, studying finance, accounting, whatever. And so like that's remarkable that you wrote and then performed a complete symphony or
I'm
whatever.
writing another one right now.
I mean, and so you kind of do it all. I mean,
Yeah.
that's remarkable. You know, it's like my wife and I. So she's a classically trained pianist. Like I said, I'm like I don't even. And then there's so she can't.
I
even
wouldn't describe
understand.
you as you keep saying hack.
She
I
can't
wouldn't
even. Well,
describe
I
you as
just
a hack.
I'm sitting with like the real deal here. You know what I'm saying? But like she can't understand what I do because I just read chords. I mean, I was trained a little bit like she was in the early days, but you know how it is. I just like read chords. And then you have dudes who like don't even need chords. They just hear it.
They just hear it. Yeah.
My daughter, Lucky. So someday I need you to meet her. I need you to. We'll talk about that after. But she has perfect pitch.
What?
I mean, you could play. I mean, like.
Wow.
It's pretty rare. I mean, truly.
Wow.
I'm talking. She can tell you if someone's a little sharp.
Wow.
She can name it. She could do it from the time she was 4 years old.
That's crazy.
She played at Carnegie Hall at 8 years old.
What?
Not joking. And it was a cool little thing for youth, but like.
Yeah, but that's cool though.
And she's a songwriter. And neither me or, so you have my wife who is she's a sight reader. She's a classical musician. She's amazing. I can't do what she does. You have me who can stand on a stage and and
improvise.
I'll even strum on a guitar, whatever. I'll just go. I'm a performer.
Yeah.
Then you have Lucky who doesn't want to be on a stage, but she writes music. Like I thought, every musician takes their. I wrote some stuff. I did a little album. No, man, she's like a Billie Eilish. She's like a writer.
Wow.
And so you have all these species. And it's just like business, for instance. It's just like life. You have all these species of business people. You have the Elon Musks, you have the pizza corner guy, and they're all good.
Yeah.
They're all worthy.
Yeah.
And in the end, each one of those species, Lucky, my daughter, me, my wife, you, we all have the same core ability. We have an inner voice.
Yeah.
We have an intuition. And we have the ability to, frankly, create almost anything we're willing to imagine.
Yeah.
And then follow it up with work. Like I got to believe writing that first symphony was hard.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I thought, of course, there's a really famous composer, film composer. He works with Tim Burton.
Oh, Elfman?
Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Here's the funny thing about manifestation. So I scored a film called Descendant for QuestLove's production company and also the Obamas. This film was about a book by Zora Hurston called Barracoon. And it talks about the last known living slave in America and then the slave ship and where was the ship, and they actually ended up finding the ship. So I won an award. I was nominated for a Hollywood and Media Award for this film, for the score. So I'm sitting at my table, with this big fancy gathering, all these amazing composers. Diane Warren is there. I meet her on the street and I'm like, oh, she looks familiar. And I end up talking to her and I end up getting her numbers, Diane Warren. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I never imagined myself in a place like this. So I'm sitting at my table. I'm sitting across from the woman who's a publicist, who's the music supervisor for Stranger Things, which is a movie I love, a TV show that I love. So this guy comes and sits next to me and we should start chatting it up. I was like, oh, he looks familiar. Prior to that, when I was during the pandemic, when I was like, oh man, I had to reinvent myself and how do I use this setback to become a setup? So I'm watching, Masterworks, or I forget the app. It's called Masters or something. Anyway, so they have a segment on film scoring because I want to do film scoring. I want to score films. And so watch Danny Elfman talk about his process, talk about how he's scared every time he does a film. Yeah. Every time he turns it in, he's like, man, I hope they, like it or whatever. He talks about the terror.
The insecurity.
Here
he is the best in the world at his craft,
Mm-hmm.
one of. And the insecurity that's persists even to today.
Yeah. And he's like,
top.
he's the biggest guy.
Okay.
So fast forward, I'm sitting at the table and I'm talking to the guy, and they're like, and the award goes to Danny Elfman. He's like, hey man, I gotta go. Nice to meet you. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The universe is God, the universe
just put him at the chair
is
next to you.
putting him in the chair next to me. And it was just like, wow, that was amazing.
I think, again, a great takeaway. I love what you said, right? Take every setback as a setup. Flip that in your mind. Because listen, in your mind, you do suck. In your mind, it is a setback.
Yeah.
We have to consciously flip these things. You can't just look at someone successful like you or me or whatever, and say, oh, well, they see the world differently.
Yeah.
We feel insecure.
Yeah.
We feel like unlucky. We feel kicked in the butt. We feel like, failures every day at something. The ability, though, to flip it, turn that setback into a setup, and then let your imagination run. Yeah. You saw yourself, you imagined yourself as a composer of symphonies. You imagined yourself as a movie. What is it? A film composer, yeah. Right? Before it ever became real.
Yeah.
As it's becoming real, and you're still probably like nervous as heck about I don't know, man. But the thing is, here's the thing. You also put in, I know what it takes to graduate through a program like you graduated through. Yeah. I mean, you put in the hours, a day, the weeks, the months, the years, scales, and this is how I view, for instance, Lovesac now. Listen, I'll be really blunt about it. This is what I was talking to investors just yesterday on NASDAQ about. Our ambition is not to make a bunch of money and go buy a bunch of cool stuff and be super rich. That's not what we're after. We want to build the most loved brand in the world. And I know that's not what? Lovesac, pump your brakes. Listen, it's simple. You think of the biggest brands that you can think of without thinking too hard. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Those were built by people, honestly, not very different than me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think of the best, you think of Danny Elfman. Yeah. You might have more training than he does. I don't even know. Mm. And not just training, but if they can do it, why not me? Yeah. If it has been done, it can be done. Yeah. And that's my attitude. Mm-hmm. And so we will turn over the next few decades Lovesac into a Nike, into an Apple. Yeah. And the best part is you can think whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Don't believe me. Just watch. Yeah. My favorite Bruno Mars line. Yeah. And the same is true for you. You can frankly do anything you want to do, as you've proved already in your life. Yeah. And as you're proving still, and you're still in the hunt. That's what I love. Thank you, man. I just thought occurs to my mind. This thought just occurred to me. One thing about setback, and the reason I mention, for me, I see, it's this whole, everything is a composition. Yeah. Every conversation is a composition because there's themes and variations on those themes. And I want to drive to this idea into people's mind. So when you have a setback and you see someone else doing exactly what you want to do, you can start to feel insecure and oh man, well, I guess they already made it, and you become a little bit envious. You might become a little jealous. And one thing I realize is sometimes I get like that, within myself, this as
insecurity.
Does everyone.
Yeah. But but now I'm sort of I find inspiration in others. When I see someone succeed, I'm like, oh man, that's really cool for them. And what I'm discovering is that.
Is that a conscious effort?
Yes, a conscious effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what I think what it does is when you are able to feel empathy and happiness for someone else succeeding, I feel like you're putting money in your own bank account. In your karmic bank account, so to speak. Absolutely. Because then Because I feel like there's room, like you're saying you want to be the best company in the world, right? I feel like there's room for everybody to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The universe, if you think about how big the universe is.
There's plenty of other,
you know what I mean?
World-class brands. My point is,
Yeah.
if they've done it, we can too.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Or I can just get super rich and pull the ripcord and go, fart around on, rich people stuff. But like, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know what you want to do. And if you can just identify, what you want to do and then go envision it,
yeah,
you'll do it.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy is like, I am certain we're going to do exactly what I just told you.
Yeah.
As long unless I get sidetracked, give up, develop a drug habit, derail it.
Exactly.
And the cool thing about you is, you're on that path. I love that you're still hungry. I love that you're still pushing yourself. I want to shift for 1 minute to the moment now. So we've talked about these big moves, these big kind of, directions that we're, things that we're chasing. But coming back to jazz music, one of the reasons that I fell in love with playing live. I don't have my daughter's talent, natural talent. I don't have my wife's training. And what I discovered is like, I just like being on a stage. Like I'll look for, and it's sad because now as like the CEO of a public company, I can't play weddings anymore. It's just too weird.
Yeah.
I actually was playing a wedding 10 years ago and one of my investors was in the room. He's like, look at me in this wedding. It was a high paying wedding, but it's kind of like, I got to hang this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like the wedding singer. But like, I just love being on a stage.
Yeah.
I just love playing music, but especially live music and especially jazz. And it doesn't even have to be jazz. Like we would play like a DJ, right? We would do like Def Leppard into 50 Cent into,
all live.
Like what?
All live.
Yeah, all live.
Oh
like we would do like these tracks into Vanilla Ice and just stuff that would make people move.
Amazing.
And I would just call it. And you know what I mean? And like, that's how our band worked. And I loved it because even though we were playing pop music now in bars, it was still jazz because it was in the moment. And you had to, I wanted to do a breakdown and they would just read my body language and be like, they'd drop out.
So awesome.
And it was so cool because like, it would get the crowd going like a DJ because it's not like, okay, we're done with this tune, this lull, bunch of noise. What's next? No, we would play these sets. Right. And that was kind of what we're known for. Wow. It was so much fun. And like, I could like control the crowd. Okay. So what am I getting at? This is why I love playing live is because you're experiencing music across time. And as you know, and depending on what the other, especially in jazz, what the other dudes are doing, you have to react in split second. And do you, in those moments, see what's coming next? Do you envision, how does it happen for you as a live musician, having to make split second decisions on what to do, what to play? How does that happen? How do you describe that?
Best way I'll describe it is the same feeling you have when you're on a dirt bike.
Yeah. Okay.
So this takes me to Producer Mondays.
Okay.
Producer Mondays is just that. It's making people focus in the moment, and you don't have time to second guess yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's creating is even when I work with the Roots, like the first session I did with QuestLove, if you can imagine how big this guy is as an artist.
Yeah.
I'm in the studio with him working on a record, working on interludes for the Roots album. It's this first record I played on. It's called How I Got Over. So I'm in the studio with him, and to answer your question, I'm like, I'm looking for notes. Like, what do you want me to play? Like, what key, what sound do you want me to use?
Yeah.
And QuestLove is like, just play. Use
thing.
those keyboards over there, just do your thing. And he says to the engineer, Steve, he's like, let's give me 72 beats per minute.
Yeah.
Like, this is him setting up the session to record. And I'm like, well,
I'm here for you.
I'm like, give me some direction. So I was forced at that moment, it forced me to be in the moment and not second guess myself. Because as a creative, you can say, oh, what about da-da-da-da? All of that talk, you don't listen to.
And you can edit forever.
You can edit forever.
That's the problem with recording.
Yeah.
When are you done?
Yeah.
The best Beatles stuff
Yeah.
was laid down one time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I record this song, and it ends up becoming something called A Piece of Light. Fast forward, Kendrick Lamar samples this song. And he has he has a mixtape called The Heart Part 2, and he sampled this piece of it. And that was the first thing I wrote with the Roots. We did it in like 10 minutes. The song was done. And so that's what I love about working with QuestLove. It's like he forced me to be in the moment and not second guess myself. You know who else is like that?
Who's that?
Prince.
Yeah.
Prince. So when I talk about mentor, these are guys that inspire me. Jay Dilla.
Did you get to meet Prince?
I played with Prince.
Yeah.
I played with Prince.
That dude, was he the best?
He was the man.
Well, I mean, was he the best?
He was the best.
I think he might have been the best.
Yes, he was the best, man. And the funny thing is, this is my one regret in life. I was at Prince's house, and I was working with Esperanza Spalding, and the part Sheila E. is there. Everyone's there, and so by the end of the night, everyone's pretty much gone. So it's me, Prince, and his bass player, and Shelby Fisher. It's the four of us. No one is in the house. So, and I had a flight the next day, and so we're playing as if we're in Madison Square Garden.
Why were you playing?
He was doing. We were just jamming. But
that's what I mean. I'm curious. Like, you get a superstar like that. Were you rehearsing, or were you just like?
Oh, we're just vibing
because you just like to.
We're just
music?
vibing.
Wow.
Yeah, we're just playing, being in the moment, just playing whatever, And it was just a lot of fun. And I was leaving because I had a flight to catch, and so I was down in his basement, so I had to take the elevator to go upstairs. Beautiful mansion in Beverly Hills. And as I'm trying to figure out how do I get out of here, he comes on the elevator. So it's me and Prince in the elevator. And I'm like, I'm looking up,
Right.
I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. And then he starts talking to me. And then he was like, man, if you're ever in LA, stop by the house. We'd love to have you anytime.
Cool. And
I never did. That's my one regret.
That's a good one. We gotta put ourselves out there. We gotta make those contacts. We gotta make our own luck.
Yeah.
What I love about what you shared is, and this is why I wanted to push on that a little bit. I believe that even my, whatever, bar, club, and band leading days makes a difference in my ability to now, for instance, build the most beloved brand in America. Why?
Yeah.
Because I can stand on that stage in front of investors and I can read the room and I can, do you know what I mean? It's not just I'm presenting slides.
Yeah.
And they don't know that I'm a musician. They don't know that I ride dirt bikes. It's all connected.
Yeah.
You can develop the skills to be in the moment.
But that's what makes you.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I'm talking to everyone though. I don't know, but I'm just saying, as I so Envision with Precision is both on the big stuff and in the split second moment stuff. But these are not things that you and I somehow are just good at. You and I have lived our lives in ways that have developed and honed those two abilities. Kind of like the big stuff and the split second stuff. And I'm saying to people, you can find hobbies, you can find friends, you can find ways and means in your life that may not even be your way of generating income.
Yeah.
My sculpture, listen, if I lived 400 years ago, maybe I would extract from a block of marble, a naked man or something that could be my art. But that's not the day I live in. I get to create this edifice called Lovesac and a brand using all sorts of different skills and capabilities, finance, creative, design, all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's the path that I landed on. I won't even say I chose. It kind of chose me.
Yeah.
I was actually more interested in being on a stage.
Yeah.
I kind of missed that still, but this is the path that I landed on. You landed on this path. You get to create art every day. Some of the best of it might take you months, like a symphony. Some of the best of it might take 10 minutes. because it's in the moment.
Yeah.
But the ability to operate in both scales can make you successful, I think, in any realm. We've explored business, we've explored music, but it's all the same. And you and I, this is what's amazing. This is why I love this podcast. We all learn the same lessons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're over here in a completely different universe than me.
Yeah.
Rubbing shoulders with Prince. I don't know. I go to Wall Street, but we learn the same lessons if we're willing to do the work, stay committed to it, and have something driving us beyond just like making money, getting by, you know, that sort of thing. And so envision with precision.
Yeah. It's a beautiful topic.
Just might save you 25 years. Thanks for joining us today, Ray. Where can people find you? How do people, I mean, obviously you're all over Spotify, but what do you want people to look at?
www.rayangry.com.
Rayangry.com. He ain't even that angry.
And I'm also at New Blue 151 every Monday doing Producer Mondays. And I'm building that into something that I think is going to be very helpful to the world and change lives, through music and collaboration and just building communities. That's the beauty of what it is that I love about, what I'm doing and the music that I'm making and the communities that's being built right now through music. So, yeah. So,
all right. Next time I'm in New York, I am.
Gotta come to Producer Mondays.
Producer Monday. I can't wait. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Once a year to take my friends away should not be the budget for your bike across America.
TikTok has become an aggregator for some of the dumbest human actions.
When I won that million, I was $2 million in debt, barely hanging on.